Well, Pat is going to present about portable gain antennas for HF. So I don't remember the name of your presentation, but it was close. Yeah. So
do I need to unmute?
You will need to push that button on the side. Just pop it.
That one? Are we getting, hello?
We are good.
All right. All right, well, thanks for coming, everybody. Yeah, I thought for tonight's presentation, it's something that I've been playing around with for probably a year or so, and that is just trying to find an antenna setup that I thought in my mind would work best. And best means different things to different people, but best for field day. And so I've been probably on a quest for a year or two to try to get that dialed in, and this year had some experience with that, and so that's what we're going to dive into tonight. I did cheat and use AI to create some of these slides, so not sure what to expect because I haven't had a lot of time to review them. So we'll see what pops up. Like, okay, so this is a good AI slide. It doesn't even look like AI, but I kind of what my goal was basically for a portable setup for field day, what was going to help me really get something that would break through on the other side. So in the receiving end, what's going to break through just all of the clutter that you hear in field day that's going to help punch through. So as we get into this, maybe you're wondering, like, who is this guy? Why this topic? I'm not going to go a lot into who is this guy, but why this topic? I think maybe everybody has a different story to tell about their interactions with field day. I got into ham radio in the late 70s and got my license in 1980. And I remember 12-year-old me going to field day with my dad at the Iowa Veterans Home in Marshalltown, just across a couple hundred yards from our house. And operating and just having a blast and kind of being a little bit let down at the end. Like, why are we going home at 7 o'clock when they're still on there making contacts? Like, we should get back on the radio, and why are we shutting down? And always starting to think about what would it take to get more contacts in the span of that event. I remember also having kind of this bucket list thing in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something with my dad that would be like the two of us doing our own field day. What would that look like? If we could bring our radios and our setup and not rely on the Marshalltown Club's stuff and their constraints about operating at the Veterans Home. And they moved around to a couple different other sites, but what would it look like if it was just kind of us doing our own thing? So that kind of led to just kind of toying with the idea for this year's event for me, and a discussion online with a few guys that led to kind of where we wound up for field day this year. And I'll get into that. So what kind of to bring you to the punchline first, and then we'll work our way back. This year, what we wound up doing for field day is renting a barn that had been renovated, and it's just on the edge of Zeering, just kind of on the edge of the county there. And it worked out to be a pretty good location for us because it had air conditioning. It had that was pretty key. And, you know, it had kind of all of the things that you would want to have. One of the guys on our team had an RV, and we were considering using the RV, but then the RV had to have some work done. And so we just needed a location that would work. But antenna-wise, like one of the things in scouting out the ideal spot, like I checked out campgrounds and a lot of other places, but I wanted to have a place that we could have a central location, but be able to separate our antennas substantially so they wouldn't interfere with each other for a 2A station. So this is a buddy hex, and that's on the south side of the barn. Some of these antennas are really difficult to photograph and to be able to see from the back of the room. So I apologize if you have a hard time seeing this, but it's kind of this this big mast that you see here, that's a 10-meter telescoping mast, and it's got guy ropes that are yellow cord that you might see. And then at the top are these fiberglass poles that come out almost like a clothes drying rack. It sort of looks like. And there's some wires that wrap around that for the different bands. So I'll get into the design here in a little bit, but looking for something that, again, the things that I was trying to optimize for here were extreme portability and performance. So I asked the AI to, unfortunately, I didn't take a picture, but the whole station effectively fits in the trunk of my car in terms of antennas, coax, like you could put everything in there. And I forgot to take a picture. So I asked AI to generate a picture of what these would look like. Oh, wow, it kind of washes out on that screen, but I know, yeah, it does all genuinely fit in the back of our Toyota Highlander. I think it would fit in the back of my Tesla as well. So anyway, it's very compact. So this is the antenna itself, the buddy hex antenna. So this is a beam antenna for 6 meters through 20 meters, 2 elements on each band. And I think I'll give you the specs here in a bit, but it really doesn't weigh a lot and fairly easy to put up in comparison to, you know, Yagi on a tower or something like that. And then I've got another antenna system for 40 meters that I'll talk about as well. Really kind of what I was looking for, Pat's target was, what's the most 20 meters and 40 meters dB that I can pack into my trunk? That's kind of the goal when I tried to think about how to distill that down. Yeah, so we'll start with the buddy hex. This is a hex beam style antenna. It's sold by a commercial company, Buddy Pole, and I think Ron has a Buddy Pole. Does anybody else have a Buddy Pole antenna? Oh, okay, a couple, Dirk does. You guys that know the Buddy Pole company, nobody else has a Buddy hex though, do they? No? Yeah. So the Buddy Pole company is kind of a neat little company. Bud Drummond, I think, was a founder, and Bud, do you remember his call sign? I don't remember Bud's call sign, but neat guy, and he was kind of into bicycle mobile things, and so he wanted to find a very portable antenna system, and he liked to tinker. His son now runs the business, Chris, super nice guy. I've talked to Chris a lot of times. In fact, when you look at their materials, you'll see on their website, that's a PowerFilm solar panel that he got from me when I worked at PowerFilm. So he's we like to talk about field portable solar a lot, Chris and I, when we get together at like Dayton. But yeah, so the Buddy Hex antenna, currently the price has gone up a fair chunk since I got mine. So now it's over $700, but I think they were $599 when I first got mine. So here's the idea for the Buddy Hex. To basically take 2 wires, and one is shaped like the letter M here, and it's fed at the center. So there are different flavors of hex beam, but I'm going to talk about the Buddy Hex beam style. So fed at the center, and so if you think of that like just a very curvy dipole, and then the second element is a reflector, and that kind of wraps around the rest of the legs of the extended telescoping fiberglass poles. And so it kind of shapes in that hexagonal shape to give you one of those things on every band. And you can put up as many or as few bands as you want when you put the thing together. Very lightweight and directional. So that's a huge advantage. Yet it still has a very tight turning radius. So it can turn with 11-foot turning radius. That antenna itself only weighs about 10 pounds and has a gain of about 8 dBi at 30 feet of elevation. And really, the really nice thing is a good front to back ratio of about 15 to 20 dB, depending on which band you're on. And a fairly decent band beam width at 93 degrees. So rated at full power. So it is, it's a performer, really. It's a nice 2-element beam effectively on all the bands that you want. I did do some modeling of the Buddy Hex. Maybe I'll take you through these a couple slides here, and then we can play with the model if you'd like. But yeah, so this is, I kind of tried to get as many dimensions as I could. I couldn't find a model online, so I made a model and wound up with this. So this is tuned for 20 meters, and I wound up getting front to back of about 9 dB on this design. And it's going to depend on your elevation of the antenna above ground as well, is going to greatly affect it. But yeah, I wound up with about a 30-degree takeoff angle with that design. So that's a side. You guys are all able to read these models, right? Yeah, that's a side view. This would be the top view, so to speak, of what that looks like. So you can see, you know, you'd be spraying in this case to the northwest and facing the northwest, and be able to kind of shut out the stuff to the southeast if that's what you were gunning for. All right, so as I wrestled with the best options for field day, I wanted to compare the Buddy Hex, at least mentally, and in the spirit of, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing and overthinking. So why not put a table together and consider all the options? So I kind of put this, well, AI helped me put this together, but this is the table of antenna options for 20 meters through 6 meters for field day. Again, you know, this antenna would score high on portability. Maybe I could probably tweak some of these, you know, a little subjective maybe on a few of these. You know, is a Buddy Hex as portable as a dipole? Well, you know, that's the Buddy Hex. You may have to take a mast, but then again, with the dipole, you may have to take supporting elements depending on where you're going. And so you got to kind of, it's not a perfect science to do some of these comparisons. I will say that the cost is going to be higher than, you know, your other options. So that's for sure. But the performance is pretty high. So that's kind of the big takeaway for me. Out of that, you get good directivity. This says fast setup time. I'd probably back that down and say you better plan on about 40 minutes probably to set it up. And it's best if you have 2 people. I've done it by myself, but probably a 2-man setup. All right. Any questions about antenna options or anything we've talked about the Buddy Hex so far? If not, I'm going to go on to a couple comparisons. So this is not a Buddy Hex. This is a model of a particular antenna. Anybody guess what type of antenna this is? It's a dipole, right? This is a dipole. This is a 3D version of it. But one of the things, you know, this is what you get out of a dipole, right? You get these big lobes off to either side, and it's a little bit deaf in the other axis. And if that's what you're looking for, it works great. Simple to set up. Of course, you can't rotate it, but you get what you get. Now,
You can rotate a dipole.
a buddy pole. Yeah. Armstrong is great. So the Buddy Hex modeled versus the dipole, I went ahead and did the comparison here, overlapping the 2 models. And I probably could have spent some more time and got this to be a little bit more presentable. But you're typically going to get about this only shows about a 3 dB advantage to the buddy hex. I think you could probably see, if you do it right at the right elevation and everything else, more like 5 or 6 dB difference. Probably one of the big things that you'll notice is the front to back difference is going to be quite a bit. So if you have a lot of noise in one particular direction, maybe I like, for example, when we got to the end of field day and I looked at the logs and, oh, we hadn't worked, I can't remember who it was, Alaska or somebody. And so we could point toward Alaska, and we're going to kind of silence, by doing that, the stations in Florida. You know, you can use that to your advantage. Let me pull up the modeling software. Oh, one thing I didn't show is the actual buddy hex model. And let me generate that and do the far field plot, and I'll see if I can, there we go. Used to working with a much larger monitor, so bear with me. There we go. So there's the model for the buddy hex. You can see that straight above you, it's going to be pretty deaf. So any signals coming in that are NVIS are probably not going to be, this is not really the antenna you want to use for NVIS. But it does kind of have some punch going out at about that 30-degree angle. That's pretty helpful when you need it. Pretty directive too. You can see that about what they say in the specs, about 93 degrees beam width, and you can see that there. Okay, so that's the buddy hex. We used it on a mast that's also sold by the Buddy Pole company. It's actually manufactured by a company called MastWorks, and there's a relationship between the two companies. I'm not completely sure. I think they're German, but it's a really cool and fairly lightweight mast system. The one that I picked up was 10 meters tall, and the bag is very similar to this one. You can actually people have taken these on DXpeditions, and oh, sorry for the people online that aren't able to see all this stuff. People have taken these on DXpeditions, and they'll take this and the mast and shove it into one of these packs that's used to haul skis or golf clubs, and they can take them on airplanes and take them all over the world. So yeah, there's the antenna. All right. So if there's no questions about the buddy hex and 6 through 20 meters, we'll move on and talk about what we did for 40 meters. So for 40 meters, I got another story. So I had in my mind for a long time, like thinking about a good antenna system for 40 meters for a field day setup. And I always thought if there's a way to get some directivity, it would be great. Of course, a 40 meter Yagi is kind of impractical for field day, but there's got to be a way to do it. So I've been thinking a lot about doing phased vertical arrays. And I went to, like, I was looking at systems that are made by DX Engineering or sold by DX Engineering and made by other people. And I went to the Hamvention, and I was at breakfast, and I struck up a conversation with this guy that was sitting at the table next to me, John Gendron. I think it's called as NJ4V. Super nice guy. Like, I really like John. And we were just talking and talking. I told him that I was wanting to do this, and he said, I'm designing a system to do that. Like, I don't have it yet. I'm going to be coming out with prototypes. Would you be interested in being kind of a beta tester? I said, well, sure. So we just kept talking, and I kept emailing back and forth with John. Actually, he wound up talking a lot to like the DX Commander guy and doing different things. But he actually formed a company then, not long after that. Let me close this stuff. There we go. Called Performance Z Arrays. And he makes phasing systems for verticals, not just for portable, for kind of field day stuff, but they could be for permanent use too. Essentially, it's a, got a little tab to open that. Just a simple little relay system inside this box. The relay goes to, switch between different coax runs that go to 2 quarter wave verticals that are equally sized and spaced a quarter wave apart. I'll go through the design here in a second. And then you have a control box that allows you to switch to one direction or the other direction or go broadside. And I'll go through that in a second as well. So John had been designing this thing. We got into this great conversation and I wanted to know more about like his approach to doing that. And he said, well, I'm using the Chrisman method. So what is the Chrisman method? There was a guy, John DeVold, does anybody know that name? ON4UN. So he wrote the book Low Band DXing, which is a fantastic book. He's a silent key now. He was a great guy too, but I'd worked him a number of times and big contester and low band DXer. Probably everybody read his stuff. But he talked about Alan Chrisman, K3LC, and his phasing network approach that basically said, if you had 2 quarter wave verticals spaced a quarter wave apart, and you could introduce a delay line of 71 degrees between the two, and each of the runs from the feed point out to the antenna were, what is it, 84 degrees? Yeah, because it winds up being 155 degrees total. You can switch back and forth with that extra phase line and it creates a delay that magically makes this system work. All right, I'll go through that in a second so you'll understand it a little bit better. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, but not everybody. And I found, I think, a cool way to explain this. So here's what you get. You have a control box that I showed you that powers into a central hub that I showed you a second ago as well. And you're able to switch and decide which direction you would like your antenna to point. Otherwise, it's just simply 2 vertical antennas that are sitting out there in the field, no moving parts really. You have this control box with that delay line of coax. And I just think this is the coolest thing, which is kind of why I'm drawn to it. So here's Pat's simple example of phased arrays. So think of a wave coming out of a quarter wave vertical. So we're looking down on top of that quarter wave vertical, and there's maybe this wave that gets generated that has peaks and valleys, right? Now, if you space another quarter wave vertical a quarter wave apart, they each can have their own waves, concentric circles fanning out as they go. What you'll notice, if they're fed the same, is that there's these points where these lines overlap. And if these were literally like waves of water, you'll get constructive interference where the wave will be doubly as high. And then where there's dips, you'll get destructive interference where it's doubly low. And so if you take those lines, you can start to build patterns, and these patterns can shape the way the antenna itself works. In this case, it would be sort of a broadside approach and not one favoring one side or another. This was the AI trying to explain it, and I think it just confused me, so I didn't like that. This is from John's website. And I think if you can, I don't know if you can all see it, maybe I should have made it bigger. If each element is fed exactly the same and you don't use the phasing line, you get a pattern that looks like this. And so you see the 2 elements, element 1 and element 2, and you get kind of this broad side. If this was east and this was west, the lobes would go north and south. So you kind of get this broadside effect. Now here's the cool thing. As soon as you insert that delay line, you get kind of this cardioid pattern that favors one side a lot and basically shuts out the other side. So you haven't introduced any new energy. You've just, if it was like a balloon, you just squished it all toward one side, really favoring that one direction. Let's see if I got maybe. I think I met him 2 years ago, maybe. Yeah, it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't Hamvention this year. It was Hamvention at least in, I think in 2024. And then I ran into him at Hamcation in Florida and just kept emailing back and forth. And yeah, and now he's fully got that as a full commercial company up and running, which is really cool. Okay, I found this. Oh yeah, there we go. So maybe as another way to explain this, hopefully this comes across. You can all see that very well. But the idea is with this website, this is a physics website I was playing around with. And if you had a tub of water and you had two balls that were sort of creating impulses and they're doing it at the same time, you can kind of see it's a little tougher to do in a bright room like this, but you start to see these patterns of constructive and destructive interference. Now you can start to play with those and you could say, hey, let's separate those balls. And maybe you start to get different patterns of interference depending on where you move that. That's analogous to moving your two elements of your antenna around. You can change the amplitude. So you start to see those patterns look a little different if we change the amplitude. And the frequency, I could play with the frequency too and see different effects. So it's the kind of the same thing that you're doing when you start to phase your antennas. It's that same effect. One thing I can't do in this free online physics shop or whatever this thing is that I found this, is I can't change the phase. That would be really cool if I could change the phase and start to simulate some of this stuff as well. But anyway, that's phasing. This is a simple 2-element array. There are 3-element arrays and 4-element arrays. Bill Meeker, K0KT, has a 3-element 80-meter array just up on the north side of town. I think he's pretty happy with that. Tony N0NI has a 4-element array. I'm pretty sure on 80, and he might have one on 162. A four square, yeah, 4-element array, 4 square. Yep. Does he have a 160 still? Yeah. I can't keep up after all the deratios and whatnot, so I haven't been out to Tony's in a while. All right, so just thinking about 40-meter vertical arrays versus other antennas. So I did the 2-element array here. I thought on the portability scale, it's medium. I said, yeah, fairly portable. Cost, definitely higher than the others. Like if this is not optimizing for cost. Now you can build your own phasing network and relays. And actually John is now selling this as a kit as well as a fully assembled unit. And the kit is pretty reasonable, I think. So, so if you're interested in John's stuff, and his system isn't obviously, maybe not obviously, but it's not exclusive to 40 meters. So if you wanted to do the same thing and build a 2-element 20-meter array or a 2-element 80-meter array or 15-meter array, John's Performance Z Arrays equipment would work great for that too. That's actually a consideration that I had as well.
Switch, change different fans. You have to tune the box to the array.
So you'd have, are you asking to have a single coax run going out to a box and then do some sort of a switch out there? Yeah. Really, the magic is in the exact precise length of those phasing lines and the line to each vertical. So, yeah,
Complete set, but just the connection into the box was
yeah.
switchable.
I think if I was doing that, I'd just go ahead and run another, go get another box and go do it all over again. So, yeah. The other thing, you want to have a good radial network down on the ground, or it could be raised too, but you want to have good radial field when you do these vertical arrays. It just really makes them pop. Okay, other antenna options for 40 meters. I don't know that there's anything too dramatic here that I think we need to talk through. Obviously, this is probably the big one. If you're looking for directivity, to me, this is an elegant solution. There might be other ways to get array. I think, did you guys do a wire inverted V array one time? Clint did. Parasitic. Inverted V's. Yeah.
Hanging off of a single beam wire. The beam actually was another dipole.
Yeah.
So you could take the jumpers in and out of the ends.
Uh-huh.
And so take these out, put these in, and it would flip it 180 degrees.
So it was a driven reflector and director, and then you swapped the
And
director and reflector based on taking the jumpers in and out.
Or you can put up a bobtail curtain, which is bidirectional by nature and has a bunch of gain. I used to use that on 40 meters all the time for DX.
yeah,
And does not need a radial field.
right. Yeah, well, anything that's up off the ground. Verticals are kind of, that's where you get married to a radial field.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
bobtail. So you do have to have a matching net. Beyond that, you don't, round rod's all you need, nothing else. Really sweet.
So I haven't done a ton of modeling. Let's see, I think I have. Here we go. Here's my far field plot of the 2-element 40-meter vertical array. So really can get some gain in one direction when you need it. That cardioid pattern is pretty killer. So if you're trying to shut out all of the East Coast stations to try to pick up the West Coast stations, here's where you get that directivity that's really nice. And this is just Pat's simple model. I think you could probably improve on the model, and you could certainly improve on the radial field that we used, because that was just kind of thrown together. But just to be able to flip that switch at the relay box, or go broadside and get north-south if you wanted, was a really nice option. All right, let's go back. Performance and deployment. Again, kind of wanted something that would perform and easy to use. While setup and takedown, I would say, were kind of, they weren't the easiest thing ever. They weren't the most challenging. So they're kind of middle of the road. I think maybe if there was a strike against the Buddy Hex setup, it would be weather. So if you're in a windy environment, it's kind of a challenge. I wouldn't put it up in a 20-mile-an-hour wind. So probably, in fact, we probably should have had a plan B antenna that was around, because it did start to get a little breezy toward the end of field day this year. The other thing you're going to want to have is a crew to help you get it set up. So there's my lovely XYL helping me get it up and running. And I don't know what happened to that one. This is the the 40-meter 2-element array, and I don't get distracted by the telephone poles back there. Don't worry about those. So it's just these two 32-foot fiberglass masts, 33-foot fiberglass masts, telescoping, and just a piece of wire running up alongside that mast. They've got some guy lines holding it up, but otherwise there's a network of, I can't remember how many radios we had on the ground, but they're all here in the box. So maybe 6 or 8 per element. So the other part of the crew, this is Nick, KC0UJC. I don't know if Nick's online tonight. Nick online? Don't see him. And Ryan, NF0T. So Nick is from Marshalltown, Ryan's from Conrad. These were the two guys that I started talking to online. And, you know, they were CW operators. And then because they were CW operators, and we talked a lot about CW POTA, one thing turned into another. And we said, what if us POTA CW guys got together and did a field day operation? What would that look like? And then somehow we found Case. How did we find you, Case? Oh, I talked to you at SCARC meeting one night. Yeah. Yeah, and we're like, okay, so CW guys talking about doing a CW thing. What would that look like? Ryan had a flex radio. I had a flex radio. Case is a top-notch contester. So we had a good team, really. And then my buddy Brad, some of you have met Brad before. So Brad, KC0 MKG, I think is his call. He's been licensed for more than 20 years. I think he's an extra and had never used HF. I'm like, Brad, he has an IAC 7300. I'm like, Brad, we got to get you on the radio. So he came out. He's like, you need to show me how to use it. So I got him on the air, and he had just a blast making contacts with a end-fed half-wave up and running. So it's not the greatest picture of Brad, but he had a lot of fun. So he was our go-to station. The results that were just posted for field day this week online. So actually, I didn't know the results until just a couple days ago, but I felt like points-wise, we did pretty good. You know, when you're trying to optimize for performance and you're trying to think through getting a good operating crew together and just getting everything together, it's nice to be able to see that, you know, we did okay. For Iowa, we were the top Class 2A team, and we had 6 people participating. The top team was a 3A, so they had an extra station, and they had 60 participants. So, you know, felt pretty good about the way it turned out for us. Just to compare the two antennas and how they performed, we had pretty equal numbers, really. We had 472 QSOs on 40 meters and 426 on 20 meters. So pretty good. You can see all these color bands are different different bands and stacked by the hours of the contest. So you can see through the hours of the contest how we were changing bands and stuff, and kind of slowed down and shut down at nighttime and picked up again in the early morning. We did manage to get on 20, 15, and 10. We didn't make a ton of contacts on 10, but we did get on all those bands. I don't think we ever tried 6 meters. Probably could have, but we didn't try 6. And on 80, we didn't get a lot of contacts. On 80, we used a very low off-center fed dipole that was really just way too low, and we had issues with it. So 24 QSOs, but that's okay. So there really wasn't the focus to figure out 80. So it was a cloud warmer. This is the breakdown of where the QSOs were by band geographically. And yeah, I guess, what's that? I guess you can see kind kind of on 40, we did a lot of stuff into the Midwest. I think one of our top sections was Ohio. So that 2-element array pointed to the east just was a pipeline into Ohio. Those are the green dots. I should have pointed that out. So the green dots are 40. 20 are this bluish color dot. And you can see that that Buddy Hex was really a performer out to the coasts. It's kind of a DX antenna. And that's okay too. So decent performance there. I think the AEI wants us to use a microwave tower next year, but that's okay. Yeah, so lessons and future plans. Don't really have any future plans, but we had just a lot of fun using these antennas this year. If I was to make some tweaks, I think a couple points came to mind. One is the feeding system for the 2-element vertical array. Really didn't have a great way to go from each of those coax feed lines from the control box to each element and then break out and go up the antenna for a wire. And I need just a simple dipole splitter or something to be able to do that, and didn't have that handy. So probably needed, if I'm honest, I probably needed about another week or two of preparation and just didn't get that. So, and definitely would need something else for 80 meters, would be good.
Could you have used like the vertical and just screwed the antenna, the wire on this onto the top somehow? You know, stuck the spike in the ground, fed the coax into the intake, and then just hooked onto the top with
What spike?
your vertical. If you have a
Oh, like, could I have used one of my telescoping verticals, which go up 17 feet, and then to go another 17 feet up, use a wire off the top of that?
or just eliminate the telescoping part and just find a way to attach the wire to the top of the what I don't know what you call the big plastic thing at the bottom with the coax connector sticking out the side. You follow what I mean though. Is yours like
I have
3/8?
Yeah, it's well, my little vertical thing is a M10 thread, so it's the Chinese version, but yeah.
So you'd have to find a way to get from a wire to an M10 bolt.
Yeah.
And just screw that into the top, and then you'd have your transition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So something. I mean, there's got to be an easier way to do what we did there.
Especially with 2-element arrays, like
yeah,
we kind of did the thing where we put one antenna up and then tuned it. We should have done both at the same time. You know, it's just finicky when you're trying to like balance between the phone portion and the CW portion. We were trying to tune for the CW, but we ended up in the phone portion. So,
yeah,
and we couldn't really do anything about it just because we already cut. So
and we're losing daylight, and you're kind of like, yeah, it was kind of finicky to get that going. I think that's something that once you've got it dialed in, it just works and you're ready to go. But yeah, we did have some tinkering that we were doing the night before, and you know, we'd never used the system before, so that was all new.
So got it.
Yep. In fact, I think John just shipped that to me just like a week or two before field day. So it was all just brand new. I was kind of begging him to get it to me before field day. All right, anything else? Any other questions or comments? It was a fun contest, and field day is a contest. Who wants to debate me? Anybody? It's a contest. And if you don't believe me, I came prepared.
And one of your
This is an article. Hold on, Klaus. Okay. This is an article from QST 1933. And it says about field day, the real object of this contest is to test portables wherever they may be available. And it goes on to talks about all kinds of reasons that they want to do it. It doesn't mention anything about emergency services or public communication or all the stuff that everybody talks about now.
Do you have the July issue where they fixed the typo?
No.
Oh.
Okay. Sorry, I just had put that jab in for anybody that wanted to debate me. Klaus.
So you did a presentation earlier about your POTA vertical antenna, which you stake into the ground and you just extend the extendable one. Have you ever considered or thought about taking two of them, putting a phasing coax between them, and then just have a string and do a compass so you can use that as a directional antenna?
Okay, so I'm not sure I totally follow, but one of my first thoughts was, how can I easily get a directivity in an antenna for POTA on 20 meters? And so I was thinking a lot about this system, but now on 20 meters with two of those cheap vertical antennas. And I still think that would be fun, but I haven't done it. But I'm not sure what you're saying with the string.
What I'm saying,
Basically,
the string is just there, so you have the correct distance.
to easily put it up
And then
quickly
you
to
can
make sure you
easily
got a
then
quarter
turn it
wave.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
you pull it out, run around, and stick it in again.
Yeah, and so I'd probably do something like one of my radials would be exactly the right distance, space it out that way, and I don't know. Yeah, I do think about that too. I don't know, too much thought goes into stuff like that. So I leave tomorrow morning, yep, to go to Hawaii for our 50th state of POTA. And so thinking about how can I get 20 meters to get enough gas in the tank to get over the ocean to get back here and get an activation in. So that's what I'm thinking about now. So I do think about that kind of stuff a lot. So yeah. There's still time to learn CW, Mike. There probably will be a microphone. Yeah. Arnold.
Well, I was gonna ask, how much does that phasing array cost?
The phasing array?
Yeah, has it been priced yet, or is it still at the
It is.
stage?
It is priced. There's kit form and there's assembled form. And then there's the question, do you want to cut your own phasing lines and coax runs or have them do it? The coax part gets to be kind of the spendy part. Yeah. If you build your own box and you're willing to cut your own phasing lines and you need a way to measure that and make sure that they're the precise electrical length for that delay line, you can save a lot of money doing that, but you need to know what you're doing and have the equipment to do it. So I think you could do it with like a rig expert, but yeah. 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 250. And it's
375.
And it's not a complicated kit to build. So not much in there. Run.
Just as a reference point, I often use a vertical with an elevated radial.
Yeah.
One radial, you think you'd get some directivity, it's less than a dB of directivity out of that.
Yeah.
Basically, it's still
Pretty omnidirectional. Yeah. Yeah. When you, a phased array really gets, well, that pattern that he's got on his website is the thing that kind of sells you. I don't even know. I should ask him if that's real, but, well, it's such a perfect cardioid, right? Like if you can really lock out the East Coast and go grab the West Coast or vice versa, like, whoa, that's pretty cool. That varies a lot band by band, obviously, but then to be able to just switch a button and say, now I want to go north-south instead, or whatever, angle it, you know, the DXpeditions start taking these things and they'll say, okay, we can go at an angle and then we can get Europe this way and the US this way, and pretty cool with just a couple verticals. Do you have anything else? All right. Oh, hi, Bill.
Hey, hi, everybody.
oh, there he is.
I thought I'd make a couple of comments. Thanks for that very nice presentation. Pat. It was
Sure.
really very, very interesting. And as you mentioned, I've got this 3-element array, which was designed, the box that I have that controls it was designed for 3 directions, but it was pretty simple. No, it wasn't simple. It required a little bit of work, but I reworked that thing to work in 6 directions, and that was a big improvement because just 3 directions. So you can get a lot more if you go from 2 to 3 is basically what I'm saying here. And there's this fellow VE6WZ. You can sort of look him up. He's got a whole bunch of YouTube stuff that's really great, does lots of stuff. And what he has done is just amazing. And I haven't studied it carefully, but he's got a 3-element 160 meter array. And he, by using very clever phasing and a very complicated switching system to switch out the way he does the delays, and a lot of it is done with loading coils and things like that. Anyway, the guy's brilliant and does lots of cool stuff. He's got that 3-element array that fires in, I don't know how many directions. I can't remember, something like 12 directions. So just by playing with the phasing lines and switching things and doing other stuff, he's got this 3-element array, and he can just steer it electrically to go in 12 different directions. So it's just phasing's a really cool thing. I mean, there's some math behind it, but it all comes down to and the picture you showed, Pat, I think is very accurate, where you get that very nice pattern if you get everything just right. It's sort of a theoretical thing that you can approach. And as far as cutting the phasing lines, as you said, the Rig Expert does it really, really nicely. Indeed, you can do it even with the old MFJ antenna analyzer. It's pretty simple, but it was a big step up when I got the Rig Analyzer. Now it's really trivial to cut these lines, and I keep on having to cut new ones because the critters eat them, right? And when the critters eat them, they sort of go bad. You measure the electrical length from both sides, and if it's different, you got a problem. And so then I replace them. In fact, I just made three spares for my 4-element receive array that also does very well on the 3 lower bands, that is 160, 80, and 60 meters. I use this 4-square receive array that came from DX Engineering 20 years ago. It's still working, but I have to cut new lines all the time. Anyway, thanks, Pat.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Yeah. And we obviously just scratched the surface a little bit on phased arrays tonight. There's this technology is being baked into a lot of other things, especially at VHF and UHF and higher. And so there's radio direction finding kits that were for sale. I don't know if they're still for sale. That's a network of little stubby antennas that will allow you to, it's a circle, I think, of antennas, and we'll use phasing to figure out which direction for radio direction finding for fox hunting. It's like the ultimate fox hunting setup. And we'll tell you, oh, the fox is at exactly 234.5 degrees, and that kind of thing. So it's being built into Wi-Fi systems now. So your Wi-Fi mesh networks have phasing built in. And so it's kind of popped up everywhere. But to play with it on HF, for me anyway, is a lot of fun. I'd love to do something 80 meters or 160, but 80 would be fun for field day at some point. But to put up 80-meter quarter wave verticals is kind of a challenge on field day. So, okay, that's what I had.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, everybody.